half of the best brother team in the sport. His younger brother Rafael is the hard-punching king of the 118-pound division, and Marquez saved his foothold at 126 with this great comeback in the fight tonight. Here's now a special treat for you. If your favorite thing is to hear an HBO boxing announcer, in this case Jim Lampley, taken to the backyard for a whipping. Earlier this evening, I interviewed Antonio Tarver, who next week will, for the second time, challenge Roy Jones for the 175-pound world championship, a championship that Tarver believes he won in their first fight last fall. Let's listen to what he had to say. Joining us now from his training camp in Vero Beach, Florida, is the man who will once again challenge for the light heavyweight championship of the world next Saturday night, Antonio Tarver. Antonio, thank you very much for your time. I'll start by pointing out that it had been our expectation and our plan to tape an interview with both you and Roy Jones at this moment, but for reasons I can't articulate, we've waited more than a half hour and Roy appears not to be available. Your thoughts?
Well, you know my thoughts, Jim. I asked the guys to look up under that rock in Pensacola that he's hiding under. I mean, whenever it's Antonio Tarver, the guy seemed to get spooked. He don't want to show up. He don't want to do his part when it comes to this promotion. And another thing, he's continued to try to downplay the biggest fight of his career, I might add, the biggest fight, the biggest challenge of his career, me, myself, Antonio Tarver. So he keep hollering about Mike Tyson, he keep hollering about Klitschko. But the point of the matter is he don't want to face the challenge in front of him. And that's me, next Saturday, May 15th at the Mandalay Bay. I'm ready, I'm eager, and I can tell the boxing fans, don't miss it. It's going to be an explosive night of boxing. Antonio Tarver is ready to once again reclaim my crown as the light heavyweight champion of the world.
Do you think he has a purpose in making you feel insulted, or do you think that it's more a matter of Roy taking for granted his superiority at 175 pounds?
Roy Jones don't have any superiority at 175 pounds. And if you don't know that by now, Jim, then I'm giving you way too much credit. But this guy don't have no superiority, especially when it comes to Antonio Tarver. He might have superiority over those other 49, fighters that he's faced before me, but there's no superiority here.
All right, I'll acknowledge this much, Antonio. Although the judges chose Roy in that fight in November, I believe 70 or 80% of the people in the arena, the fans, believed that you had won the fight. Tell us how, in your view, you won that fight.
Well, you know what, Jim? I won that fight because, you know, as you all say, that I was in the ring with Superman, the guy that was unbeatable, haven't lost as many as 3 or 4 rounds before he met Antonio Tarver. I won that fight clearly. I dictated the pace. I dominated when you look at clean punching, effective punching, and you look at ring generalship. All of the 3 major facets when judging a fight, I dominated in those categories. I don't know what fight you saw. I don't know what fight Harold Letterman saw, but I can honestly say that the European connection, the international feed had me winning going away. That fight wasn't close. I beat the guy, hand down, and you know what? I got a second opportunity to show the world that not only do I belong in the same echelon as the best fighters in the world today, but I belong on top.
The people who think you didn't win the fight last fall would say that you might have won it had you been more aggressive when you were in the center of the ring, that you certainly hammered Roy along the ropes, but for long periods of time in the middle of the ring, you weren't active. Your thoughts on that?
Well, you know what? I was the champion going in. Tell me what champion has fought as good as I fought that night and lose a championship. You know, I can think back years and years, and I don't recall one. I went in that championship fight as the champion. Roy Jones was the challenger. And you're telling me he took my title? What did Roy Jones do in the center of the ring? I mean, what did Roy Jones do throughout the whole entire fight? He hit a lot of glove, and when you say shh, 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 that don't mean that you're scoring punches. I beat the guy, I busted the guy up, I left that fight looking as good as I look right now. No hands, no doubt about it. And the fans in the world are going to see once again that Antonio Tarver is hungry and I'm ready to roar. I will take care of my business on May 15th. Roy Jones, you need not show up for this interview, but have your butt in place May 15th, Mandalay Bay, because I'll be there and I'll be looking you square in the face and you're going to have to go through your worst nightmare once again. This time, you're not going to get any handshakes from the judges. And Jim Lampley, put down the pom-poms, baby. Call the fight like you see it.
All right, thank you very much, Antonio. You showed up, and we appreciate your time.
No problem.
All right, it's next Saturday night on HBO pay-per-view. Light heavyweight champion Roy Jones taking on Antonio Tarver, a rematch of their fight last November, a match Jones openly acknowledges to have been the most difficult of his career. Tarver Jones, too, your thoughts?
I think it's going to be a very interesting fight, and I hope that Tarver fights, as you said, in the center of the ring this time. What made the fight so difficult to score and close? Because Tarver would win at the points where Roy would say, like, I'm going to take a break now and lay in the ropes for 30 seconds, come on, punch him. He would punch. But then when Roy would come to the center of the ring and say, let's fight a little bit, Tarver cut off. In the last 2 rounds, I thought that Roy won those 2 crucial rounds. Not that he landed blows, but he was throwing punches, as Tarver said, tut. But he wasn't doing anything, so whoever's throwing the punches wins the round. So Roy actually knew how to win the round without beating Tarver. And as a result, that's how he ended up winning the decision.
Incidentally, I did call it as I saw it, and Antonio's completely within his rights in thinking that I'm blind. Larry, your thoughts?
Well, I think it's conceivable that Roy Jones got some close rounds because he is Roy Jones. But nevertheless, the general feeling was, as Emmanuel Stewart just suggested, that Antonio Tarver thought he had the fight won, and he coasted in the late rounds, and he lost the fight. We know this. He can sure talk for 12 rounds. Hopefully this time he'll fight for 12 rounds.
He's a great guy. Let's hope he puts forth another great effort next Saturday night. I strongly feel that Roy is going to come back with something memorable on his own. All right, what a night it's been. We'll have a final word on what took place in the ring here in just a few moments. Right now, let's look ahead to some upcoming programs on HBO.
Okay, class. We're now going to review the basic rules of education. What's the basic rule of science?
The sky is blue.
And why is that?
Because you said so.
Very good. What's the basic rule of math?
Math is only necessary in sports, gambling, and corporate fraud.
Who runs our government?
Big oil, labor unions, and pharmaceutical companies.
Excellent. What is the golden rule?
The best reason to have children is for the tax credit.
Yes!
Catch Louis Black in his stand-up comedy special, Black on Broadway. Premieres Saturday, May 15th on HBO.
One fighter pushes the limit.
This kid is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Always victorious.
Unbelievable.
Can he do it again?
This is a stirring performance.
31-0.
On to see some fireworks.
21 knockout.
Terrific fight.
Unstoppable at any weight.
Any fighter from 154 on down.
Pretty boy Floyd Mayweather.
Bring him and I'll take him.
Is he the best pound for pound? DeMarcus Chop Corley wants to prove him wrong. 2 of the flashiest fighters in the land, Mayweather versus Corley.
Next Saturday night, light heavyweight champ Roy Jones takes on Antonio Tarver in a rematch of their fight from last November. Roy edged out Tarver by close majority decision that one, and this time looks to leave no doubts as to who's the man at 175. Tarver, of course, as you just heard, plans to leave no doubts himself. Earlier tonight, you saw rising prospect Miguel Cotto in his 20th pro fight face by far his toughest challenge yet, as Lovemore and Doe kept coming at Cotto through 12 full rounds, forcing the young star to fight the distance of 12 rounds for the very first time in his career, and yet Cotto at the end was able to earn a unanimous decision with harder, sharper punching. Then, in the first round of Manny Pacquiao and Juan Manuel Marquez, Pacquiao knocked Marquez down 3 times. The third time he was down, it was for no means certain that Marquez was going to get up, but when he got up, he won 10 of the next 11 rounds on one of the 3 judges' scorecards to wind up earning a draw with Pacquiao. Let's see it again. It was great. Next on HBO, stay tuned for Deadwood on the East Coast and the premiere of The In-Laws on the West Coast. I'm Jim Lampley saying so long for our entire crew on and off the air in Las Vegas.
This has been a presentation of HBO Sports.